with mental illnesses. The Council of Academics report on this point raised a number of difficulties related to providing MAID to people with mental illness. And I assume I will be able to continue later, Madam Speaker. That's right. You'll have 5 minutes after question period to continue your speech.
Statements by members. The Honourable Member for Etobicoke North.
Etobicoke North has been celebrating Black History Month. Black Canadians, their significant contributions to our community and how they have helped shape our history and our country. Today I highlight the work of Marcia Brown, the founder of Trust 15, a youth organization focused on creating a safe place where young people are welcome, valued, inspired, and supported. Marcia, thank you for your vision, tireless work in championing our amazing young people. And to our outstanding youth, know that you matter, your ideas matter, and that we see your smarts, kind hearts, and tremendous talents. Know that there will be challenges as you work to achieve your dreams. There always are. But know that you can achieve anything, and that Marcia and I are here to help you break down barriers and support you in all your efforts. Trust 15, dare to dream your greatest dream.
The Honourable Member for Peace River Westlock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a new beard and a new look, but we wish the Prime Minister had a new attitude. Albertans work hard and we play hard, and we're proud of overcoming the challenges. The challenges like landlocked resources, cold climate, rugged terrain, great distances from markets, and strict environmental standards. We step up and we work hard to overcome every challenge put in front of us. The Tech Frontier Mine was a project of clear example of Albertans overcoming challenges. It had support of 14 First Nations and met or exceeded every environmental and scientific requirement that the Liberals had placed on it. The only obstacle standing in the way was this Prime Minister and his government. Last week, Tech made it clear that the lack of action by this government led to its cancellation. Now, 7,000 jobs, $20 billion, gone. Mr. Speaker, Albertans are a proud people. We work hard and we contribute to Canada. It's time for the Liberals to respect us, recognize our contributions, and let us get back to work.
Here, here. For Newmarket, Aurora.
Madam Speaker, this past Saturday, I was proud to join my community in Newmarket, Aurora, in the coldest night of the year fundraising walk. This year, we doubled our goal and raised over $86,000 to help In From the Cold, a local charity that assists homeless and at-risk individuals by providing shelter, training, and transition to permanent solutions. I'd like to congratulate the walkers, the volunteers, the sponsors, and the charities of Newmarket, Aurora for making this year's coldest night of the year walk a huge success, and I thank them for the continuous commitment to help the vulnerable people in our community. Madam Speaker, I also recognize that Canadians across 145 communities participated in this annual walk and raised over $6 million. Congratulations to my colleagues in the House who participated in the walk, each in their own ridings. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, yesterday we learned that Résolu Forestry had to temporarily close the doors of its Dolbeau-Mistanani factory. Why? Because of this Prime Minister's inaction on the rail blockades. On the other side of the House, they love to lecture us about the middle class, but they really don't understand. When a railway is blocked long enough to close a paper mill, that affects the middle class. Just like my region, I am angry. I know what it means to be laid off. I used to work in a paper mill until last September, and I experienced this. It isn't easy. It's not just 160 people who are without jobs. We're talking about 167 families from the middle class that are now in a precarious situation. This crisis must end, and I hope that this House will listen to the cries from the Genois, and better still, it should listen to the Bloc's proposals, because things work out when they listen to us.
Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, last week I was part of the Canadian delegation to the NATO Parliamentary Assembly in Brussels. NATO is a multilateral organization committed to global peace and freedom and to meeting security challenges of terrorism and cyber attacks. Canada has participated in nearly every NATO mission since its founding in 1949 and is currently leading the following key initiatives: Forward Presence Battle Group in Latvia, led by Colonel Eric Laforêt. NATO Defense College, led by Lieutenant General Christine Whitecross. Standing NATO Maritime Group 2 until recently, led by Commodore José Kurtz. And the NATO Training Mission in Iraq, led by Major General Jenny Carignan. We're proud of Canada's excellent leadership, and note that until the end of December 2019, 3 of our 4 operations were led by women. Mr. Speaker, I saw firsthand how vital an organization NATO is to ensuring peace and stability in the world. We can never waver in our commitment to NATO and to supporting the amazing women and men who step up every day to defend our values, our liberty, and our democracy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Markham Unionville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand today to join Armenian community across Canada to commemorate the 32nd anniversary of Somagate pogrom and the 30th anniversary of Baku pogrom. During the waning days of Soviet Union, Artsakh Armenians demanded reunification with Armenia and later the independence of Armenia. In response, Azeri nationalists carried out a gross massacres in the city of Somagate and the capital city of Baku. These massacres set a precedent for xenophobia, hatred, and discrimination towards Armenians in Azerbaijan that unfortunately continues till today and impede the Artsakh peace process. These historic events should act as a strong reminders for Canada that we must continue to defend human rights and stop crime against humanity abroad. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Honourable Member for Charlottetown.
The Innovative Communities Fund focuses on investments that lead to long-term employment and economic capacity building in Atlantic Canadian communities. There's an excellent example of that happening right now in the great riding of Charlottetown. Since 1981, our beloved Charlottetown Farmers Market has been the city's go-to destination on a Saturday morning.
In public life, it's important to spend time with your constituents, and on Saturday mornings, I find many of my constituents at the market. All year long, there are over 65 vendors who sell the best local products, cuisine, arts and crafts that Prince Edward Island has to offer. And in my opinion, this speaks volumes.
It is an essential driver for our economy, particularly for small business and agri-food entrepreneurs. And this new investment will ensure that the market is able not just to survive, but to thrive as a place to buy local and meet neighbours. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Laval-les-Îles. Mr. Speaker, Armenians from Laval-les-Îles and across Canada are commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Baku genocide and the 32nd anniversary of the Somagate one. These were heinous crimes against humanity that took the lives of many people in the cities of Uzbekistan.
But it's still fresh in the memory of those who survived. Today, let us take a moment to pay homage to each and every one affected directly or indirectly by this barbarian, senseless violence, and to raise awareness so such history does not repeat itself.
By commemorating this horrible tragedy, we remember how lucky we are to live in a country like Canada where fundamental human rights are respected and where we share common values such as respect, tolerance, and justice. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today and salute the volunteer organizations in Calgary Centre who have spent years promoting pride in Canada's working resource industries. For years, workers in these sectors have contributed to Canada's growth, paying taxes, while an army of foreign-funded activists mounted misinformation campaigns to discredit their work. These Canadians believed that governments would make good common-sense decisions. Well, Mr. Speaker, common sense is not always in abundance. Out of this noise arose a collection of volunteer voices, recognizing we needed better information on how our natural resource industries contribute to the essentials of life we all enjoy. Canada Action, started by Cody Battershill, has become a highly regarded source of information and a purveyor of Canadian pride. There are many more. Terry Winnetoy of Energy Now, Michael Binion of Modern Miracle Network, Aaron Foyer and Alexandria Shrake of Energy Minute. Chris Slubicki from Modern Resources. Each of these organizations and people have undertaken their task as volunteers to make our country better.
The honourable member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
I'd like to talk about an organization that is leading by example in showcasing to the people of Mississauga and the country how warmth, kindness, and empathy help us build an ideal community. As a nonprofit charitable organization, Community Living Mississauga supports individuals with an intellectual disability to ensure their social life is meaningfully improved. Over 3,000 Mississaugans have received opportunities through 450-plus employers, which provide support and care to individuals that need it most. Community Living Mississauga will be hosting their annual tribute dinner. Frank Giannone will be honored for his philanthropic efforts and contributions towards the city. The goal of this event, along with honoring Frank, will be to raise funds so that young people with intellectual disabilities can attend summer programming. As a big supporter of Community Living Mississauga, I want to thank all the donors, volunteers, staff members, and management for their great work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On March 8th, we celebrate International Women's Day. Every day, Canadian women make vital contributions to communities across our country. For years, women have stood up against sexism and inequality. Women's contributions to our farms, our businesses, and our homes make our communities vibrant and dynamite. While women have come a long way towards true gender equality, we know that issues such as gender-based violence, sex trafficking, and unequal representation to disproportionately affect women. Canada's Conservatives are hard at work to put forward constructive ideas that benefit Canadian women in every region of our country. We are committed to empowering women and girls to achieve their full potential. We know that women will succeed and all of Canada will benefit. Happy International Day.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute on the 120th anniversary of the Battle of Paardeberg. The Boer War marked the first overseas deployment of the Canadian Army, and specifically the 2nd Special Service Battalion of the Royal Canadian Regiment of Infantry, who played an instrumental role in the victory of the Battle of Paardeberg Drift. During the early morning of the 27th February 1900, the battalion advanced by night towards the enemy lines, quietly digging trenches on high ground only 65 yards before the Boer lines, before the Boers attempted to repel the Canadian advance and fierce fighting began. By 6 a.m., the Boers surrendered, thus removing the enemy forces blocking the way to the Boer capital. As the colonel of the regiment, the Right Honourable David Johnson, said recently, this battle represented a turning point in the South African conflict. Historians acclaim that this battle, attributed internationally as a Canadian success, led to Canada's first true pangs of nationalism. For approximately 2 decades afterwards, Canadians would gather on 27 February around memorials to the South African War to say prayers and honor veterans until replaced by Remembrance Day following World War I. I invite all members of the House to join me in honoring our veterans and celebrating Paardeberg Day. Pro Patriot.
The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
The opioid crisis is causing havoc and heartbreak. Back in 2009, my office helped establish the first OxyContin task force in Timmins, and those frontline groups are doing incredible work. And then we got hit with a new generation of nightmare drugs, fentanyl, carfentanil, purple heroin. There is now an unprecedented medical emergency across North America. In Timmins, I'd like to thank the work of the Situation Table, the frontline workers and police, medical, mental health, the Living Space. In Kirkland Lake, my office is working with the Opioid Task Force. In James Bay, we have states of emergency that have been declared, but we need the federal government at the table. We need more services for harm reduction. We need a commitment to start going after the illicit trade in fentanyl on the dark net. We need to have a gut readiness of this government to go after big pharma to make them pay for the damage that they've done. We need to declare a national medical emergency because this crisis is affecting us all.
The honourable member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Mr. Speaker, on February 13th, when I was visiting Quebec's wonderful national capital, I visited the original Ma Langue au Chat Cat Cafe. There are many cats there, and this is a small business created by 2 Army veterans who were suffering from PTSD. So I'd like to underscore, Mr. Speaker, the commitment and the courage of Marie-Pierre Tremblay and Lisa Cyr, who through their work are changing mindsets and are allowing veterans to a place to go where they won't be labeled and where their suffering is alleviated, a true refuge. These two women are changing mindsets and reducing stigma related to mental health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris.
One of the worst acts of vandalism in Canadian history occurred 2 nights ago in Winnipeg when someone defaced a monument honouring RCMP officers who died in the line of duty. These brave men and women, the RCMP, died in their line of duty to our nation. They died upholding the rule of law and for answering the call when we needed them the most. I can think of nothing more despicable than this cowardly act of vandalism. Instead of peaceful protests, these vandals have resorted to radical acts. They stoop to the lowest levels in their attempt to advance their cause. In Canada, when we disagree, we do it through peaceful means and not spray painting vulgarities on monuments. If these vandals thought their acts would garner support for their cause, they were wrong. These vandals have unfairly tarnished those who are engaging in peaceful dialogue. They should be ashamed of themselves and immediately apologize, and I call on all members to denounce these illegal and appalling acts of vandalism.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has lost a giant. The Honourable David P. Smith, husband, father, grandfather, former cabinet minister, senator, a genuine political legend, passed away yesterday. Brother Smith, as he was known by everyone, was honest, funny, and decent. He was called home, but far too soon. He was deeply religious. Yesterday was Ash Wednesday, fitting perhaps, and it was his time, but the rest of us weren't ready. His humor, his demeanor, and his gregarious personality transcended all political boundaries. He was respected and loved by all that knew him, regardless of their political stripe. But make no mistake, he was a Liberal. And he was a brilliant strategist. He was the man behind many successful campaigns. In 1993, he ran the Ontario campaign, and the Liberals won every seat but one. Mr. Speaker, I'm told that Prime Minister Chrétien still hasn't forgiven him. Yeah. There are many people in this chamber who would not be here but for him. He was a mentor, a role model, and an inspiration. He represented all good things about this profession. A minute isn't enough time to reflect, Mr. Speaker, so I ask that we pause and we learn from his legacy.
Before we go on, I just want to remind the honourable members, if I can have your attention. The honourable members, when it's time to speak or you have to get up, if you don't mind doing it before your name is called. Most of you know when you're going to be getting up. So if the honourable members can rise before the name is called. We've had a few incidents where people have been overlooked and we've gone somewhere else. So just to make sure, it's not usually during question period, it's during the day. But even during question period, if you know your time is coming, please don't wait until it's time to speak before you get up. Just a little reminder there to help the process go better. Now, oral questions. Question orale. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Tech Frontier mine would have been a big benefit to Canada's economy, creating the 7,000 construction jobs and 2,500 long-term jobs. 14 Indigenous communities had signed partnership agreements, and they were looking forward to benefiting from the jobs that this project would have created. So the decision to cancel Tech Frontier should have been a massive disappointment to any government, but yet the Prime Minister has refused to tell us how he personally feels about this decision. So can the Prime Minister tell us how he feels about Tech Frontier being cancelled?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let let me say that I know this was a very difficult decision for the company and a very difficult decision for our country. Let me tell you how I feel about our country's oil and gas sector. We secured the largest investment in Canada's history in LNG Canada. We have approved the Line 3 replacement, we approved TMX, and we will get it built. Our government understands that Canada is one of the world's leading producers of oil and gas, and that sector is the source of hundreds of thousands of great jobs across the country. We support the sector.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, the problem with that answer, Mr. Speaker, is that over almost $200 billion worth of investment in our energy sector has left Canada for other countries that can actually get projects approved and built by the private sector. Now, the Prime Minister is trying to blame Tech Frontier's decision on the polarized debate around it. In other words, what he is saying is that the only way big projects can get built in this country now is if nobody notices that they're happening, because he doesn't have the strength to stare down radical activists who just want to leave the oil and gas in the ground. So, can the Prime Minister tell us what he is going to do to make sure that future projects don't get hijacked by these types of tactics?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, let me tell the Leader of the Opposition what we all need to do. We all need to recognize that reconciling ambitious climate action and getting energy projects built in Canada is complex and presents complex challenges. It is not good for our country to have this debate be dominated by extremes on either side. We need to work sincerely together to find common ground, and our government is committed to doing just that.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, it was the Prime Minister who praised the protesters, who he said were out defending their community in the cold. Those were his words. But it is very complicated to get a project approved. But it's actually very simple once the independent regulator gives a recommendation. And that recommendation was sitting on the Prime Minister's desk since July. This Prime Minister could have approved this project in July, but he refused to do so. He refused to approve it in August, September, October, November, December, January. What I would like to know, Mr. Speaker, is what information was the Prime Minister waiting for that he couldn't approve this project back in July?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I don't agree with the members opposite about everything, but I think we can all agree that our country needs to find a path forward on getting big energy projects built and on acting ambitiously when it comes to climate change. It is simply untrue and false to suggest to Canadians that that path is simple. It's complicated. It's going to take all of us working together, and that's what we're going to do.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, for 5 years now, every time a difficult situation arises in Canada, our Prime Minister shows no leadership. A trip to the Aga Khan's Island, trip to India, SNC-Lavalin, coronavirus, the CN strike, Western energy projects, and now rail blockades. Mr. Speaker, governing is easy for anyone when things are going well. But it's in the face of adversity that you see who the true leaders are. When will this Prime Minister show leadership in order to resolve once and forever the rail blockades? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has shown leadership and did so last week when he clearly stated that the injunctions have to be respected and the law must be upheld, the blockades removed. And I would like to congratulate our Minister of Indigenous Crown Relations, who is in British Columbia today to work with her provincial counterpart and representatives from the Wet'suwet'en community. The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, we are now into the 4th week of rail blockades, and nothing is happening. On one day, it's the Conservatives' fault. On another day, it's Harper's fault. On yet another day, it's the First Nations' fault, the province's fault. It's everyone's fault except the Prime Minister's. And yet he has been in office for 5 years. But the reality on the ground is that Canadians are fed up. We want a Prime Minister who shows leadership. When will he give us a date when all those tracks will be freed up? The Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I must point out the Prime Minister's leadership that he showed last Friday when he said that the blockades must be dismantled. And I also want to underscore the leadership of my colleague, our Minister of Indigenous Crown Relations, that she is showing today in British Columbia. Now, it's all very well for people to speak, but we are the ones who are doing the work.
La Prairie.
The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Mr. Speaker, it took 22 days for the government to finally meet with the Wet'suwet'en chiefs. It's the only way to get the Kahnawake blockade lifted, and I hope the PM knows this. You see, yesterday he said, and I quote, "We have enormous trust in the Quebec Police Services and in the community to resolve their own crisis." Their crisis, Mr. Speaker? It wasn't a crisis that was caused by the government of Quebec, nor by the police services in Quebec. It was caused by the lack of leadership on the part of the Canadian Prime Minister, and everyone knows that. Will the government finally tackle the crisis at its source in British Columbia? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity on a question from the Bloc Québécois to underscore the fact that we are all working together in order to resolve a very significant issue for the economy. And I would like to thank the entire Bloc Québécois on its will to work with our government on the new NAFTA. The Bloc recommended better oversight for aluminum, and we have had very fruitful conversations with them. Thank you. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. Well, I like what the Deputy Prime Minister said. I'd like her to say that more often in front of the media, actually. But listen, what did we propose on this crisis? That the RCMP withdraw from Wet'suwet'en territory and that work cease on the project. Now, if you had listened, the Bloc Québécois, from the beginning, like you did on aluminum, perhaps we'd be better off today. But that's not what's happening. Here we are on the 22nd day, and they're saying maybe the issue will be resolved. Can you understand that the Kahnawake problem will find its solution actually in British Columbia? I would just like to remind members that the Speaker had nothing to do with aluminum, actually. And so when you put a question, you have to move through, not directly to the Speaker. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind my colleague on the other side of the House that the responses we give in the House are also the responses we give to the media. And I think everyone knows that. Now, with respect to the blockades, I would like to point out that our Prime Minister has shown significant leadership over the course of last week, and I would also like to underscore the very important work that my colleague, the Minister for Indigenous Crown Relations, is doing now in British Columbia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The hereditary chiefs asked for a meeting with the Prime Minister and have been doing so since January 10th. That's more than a month ago, and the Prime Minister has refused to act. Now here we have a national crisis. It's simple. When will the Prime Minister meet with the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs?
Leader is also a BC MP. So I am sure he will be glad to know that we are working on this issue in very close collaboration with Premier Horgan, with whom I spoke at length last night. No Premier has worked harder on reconciliation, and we should all acknowledge that. We should also all support the province of BC's efforts to get important natural resource projects built in Canada. And when it comes to meeting with the Wet'suwet'en leadership, that is what my colleague is doing today.
Member for Burnaby South.
On January 29th,
2020, the Prime Minister met with Suncor Energy. On December 11th, 2019, Novartis Pharmaceuticals. On November 14th, Enbridge. In the past couple of months, when wealthy and powerful corporations come knocking, the Prime Minister finds a time to meet with them. But when Indigenous people ask to meet the Prime Minister, he ignores their requests. If the Prime Minister can find the time to meet with powerful corporations during a national crisis, why can't he find the time to meet with the hereditary chiefs of Wet'suwet'en?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Let me be very clear and say something which is incontrovertible, and that is that our Prime Minister has worked harder and more sincerely towards reconciliation than any Prime Minister in Canada's history. When it comes to a meeting with the Wet'suwet'en hereditary leadership, my colleague, the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations, is in BC with her BC counterpart doing exactly that.
Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, as a result of the government's anti-oil and gas policies, Teck withdrew their application. Thousands of families in many Indigenous communities are devastated and very concerned for their future. Investment into the oil sands is now seen as a non-starter with this current Liberal government. When will the Prime Minister end his attack on Alberta and let us create the needed jobs?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The decision made by Teck Resources and the letter that the Teck CEO sent to me clearly demonstrates the need for all levels of government and indeed all members in this House to be working together to deliver climate action and clean growth. We need to take action on climate change in order to move forward with business certainty. It is something that the investment community has told us is extremely important. It is something that all Canadians are telling us is extremely important. Mr. Speaker, we should be fighting climate change, not each other.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Centre.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday I introduced my private member's bill C-229, which asks the government to repeal their West Coast shipping ban. This bill sends a clear message to investors Canada is open for business, and that my Conservative colleagues and I continue to advocate for increased access to markets for our oil and gas sector. Will the Prime Minister commit today to support Bill C-229 and show that he's finally listening to Alberta and the rest of the Western provinces?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Mr. Speaker, our commitment to safe shipping on the west coast of this country is a very, very strong one, because we realize to what level it is important to get our products to Asian and other international markets. That's why we're very, very proud of the Oceans Protection Plan, which contains more than 50 measures to make our marine shipping industry safer and our waters more safe. And that is why we're also involving our First Nations, and we're very proud of that, and we're going to continue to work in that direction.
Well done.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to natural resources, unfortunately, this government practices a scorched earth policy, and that's really too bad for Canada. 7 major projects have been cancelled. $150 billion investment have evaporated. 200,000 jobs have been lost in the energy sector in Canada. That's what the record is of the Liberals. In Quebec, did you know that we buy 10.6 billion litres of fuel, and 62% of that comes from the U.S.? Now, perhaps the Liberals and the Bloc are happy to help Donald Trump, but we're not. Why doesn't the Liberal government decide on having energy self-sufficiency in this country? Mr. Speaker, we have done important work on growing our economy and protecting the environment, and that rises well above any single project. Our government is committed to working with Alberta and with the resource sector in order to ensure that the right projects go ahead. Thank you.
Well, member for South Surrey, White Rock.
Mr. Speaker, text withdrawal is a tragedy for Canada, not just Alberta. 7,000 jobs lost, billions of investment dollars gone. There's a serious disconnect between this Prime Minister and Western Canadians. Yesterday he said Alberta continues to politically resist after Teck engaged First Nations and passed all standards. His contempt for hardworking Canadians hurts. When will this Prime Minister stop blaming Alberta and support industry-leading projects that are socially and environmentally responsible?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I think it would be helpful to quote the Calgary Chamber of Commerce, which recently said, and I quote, "We need real decisive action on climate change with tangible outcomes and conviction. The success of our businesses, the well-being of our families, and our strength as a country all depend on it." Mr. Speaker, we agree, and we are working with all orders of government to ensure a sustainable resource sector and to take aggressive action on climate change.
The Honourable Member for Grand Prairie, Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister regularly attacks elected officials from the province of Alberta, but yesterday he let his contempt for all Albertans slip out of his mouth yet again. He was justifying his paternalistic, his Laurentian elite Ottawa knows best attack on Albertans' energy sector, falsely claiming that Alberta has done nothing to address climate change. False statements attacking Albertans pour gasoline on the flames of a national unity crisis that he himself ignited. Why is the Prime Minister willfully ignorant about what is happening in Alberta, or does he just want this crisis to burn on?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I am very aware, and our government is very aware, of the pain and indeed, among many people, the despair in Alberta today. I want to be very clear that when it comes to the oil and gas sector, our government is clear in its support. We understand that the oil and gas sector in Canada is the source of hundreds of thousands of well-paying, often blue-collar jobs across our great country. It is not right to play with national unity.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin.
Mr. Speaker, those are just words. And yesterday in an interview, the Natural Resources Minister was challenged regarding his government's lack of an emissions plan. Asked when one would be unveiled, he repeated the word soon 5 times in 25 seconds. He acknowledged that investors don't currently, quote, know what direction we're heading in and what the rules are. No kidding. This is something that's been glaringly obvious to everyone but this government for the past 4 years. How many more billions of dollars in investment and tens of thousands of jobs need to be lost before this Liberal government finally has a coherent plan?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
It is very clear that one of the things we have to do is develop a net zero plan, and that has to be done with the provinces, with the territories, and it has to be done with industry. And indeed, Mr. Speaker, it has to be done very soon because the investment climate all around the world is changing. It is changing. They are going to jurisdictions that take climate change seriously, and we need to make sure that we get
Now, we started off not too bad. It was actually going well, but suddenly the noise level came up. Order. Now, you know, what's very embarrassing is being named, and I'm sure we don't want anyone to be named today. So I'll just leave it at that, and we'll let the Honourable Minister of Natural Resources continue.
Mr. Speaker, the investment community around the world is coalescing around the net zero marker, and there is no way that we can get to net zero as a country without Canadian oil and gas. In the same way, there's no way we can have a competitive, thriving oil and gas industry in this country without net zero.
The Honourable Member for Avignon, La Métis, Matane, Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, we're now in the era of climate change, not the era of drill, baby, drill. Suncor president said that the time of big projects is over. Teck Resources CEO said that before investing, provinces have to agree on their climate change policies. Even oil companies are greener than the government now. That's quite something. The government decides to buy Trans Mountain for a huge sum and doesn't even blink when that cost explodes. Will this government listen to reason and end this irresponsible spending? The Honourable Minister for the Environment. Mr. Speaker, we have taken significant action to tackle climate change. We have developed a plan with 50 initiatives to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and we have promised to implement a plan to reach our 2030 target and to achieve net zero by 2050. Mr. Speaker, we have made a lot of progress, but we need to make even more progress. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, you can't talk about tackling climate change and at the same time put $18 billion worth of taxpayers' money into the purchase of the Trans Mountain pipeline. And yet that's exactly what this government is doing. It's wasting $18 billion to buy a pipeline that will transport the dirtiest oil on the planet and sell it to markets that will continue to pollute. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to know if the Minister of the Environment can explain once again, perhaps, how Trans Mountain will contribute to the goals that this government set. The Honourable Minister for the Environment. Mr. Speaker, we have a serious, affordable plan to tackle climate change. We have spent more than $63 billion in green infrastructure and in clean energy, more than any other government in the history of this country. Furthermore, every dollar generated by TMX will be invested in a green transition so that we can move on to a cleaner economy and make sure that our resources reach markets and that we still transition to an affordable green economy. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. So TMX is going to be invested into green energy? Sorry, that's like saying you're going to set fire to a village and that way you'll be able to justify hiring firefighters. Trans Mountain is $18 billion that could be invested into what? Well, how about health transfers? How about climate change? How about old age pensions? And how about a transition for oil workers? But no, they're going to invest it in the oil sands. Will the minister recognize that this white elephant is harming the economy as much as it's harming the planet? The Honourable Minister for the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stated, we are going to implement a strong plan to tackle climate change, the strongest plan in the history of this country. We have a plan for 2030. We have said that we want to develop a plan to achieve net zero by 2050. We have made more progress on climate change with this government than with any government in the history of Canada. The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, Australia has announced that it is implementing an emergency plan to face the increasing spread of the coronavirus. The Australian Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, announced that decision today because he expects that a global pandemic will be announced in the coming days. Even the Chief Public Health Officer of Canada, Theresa Tam, stated on Tuesday to reporters that this virus will probably become a pandemic. But we shouldn't panic. However, Canadians need to be reassured. Will the Prime Minister confirm today that there is an emergency plan in place? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
At this time, the risk within Canada remains low, but we do need to be prepared. This is a rapidly evolving situation, Mr. Speaker, and based on what is happening around the world, we are now preparing for a global spread of COVID-19. Our focus is now on limiting the impact within Canada. We already have emergency response plans in place, We also have federal, provincial, and territorial preparedness plans to respond to a pandemic situation. Mr. Speaker, only the World Health Organization can declare a pandemic.
Good job. Member for Caribou Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, the WHO Director General said this today. This virus does not respect borders. China, South Korea, Iran, Italy, Australia, Brazil. The coronavirus is spreading to all corners of the world. People are dying, and Canadians are rightfully concerned for their health and safety. This government needs to assure Canadians they are doing everything in their power to protect our country from this global health emergency. The U.S. has implemented restrictions denying foreign nationals from entering the country if they have visited China within the last 14 days. Our allies have taken unprecedented steps to protect their citizens and contain the virus. Has this government considered the same restrictions?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I want to thank the Honourable member for the question. As we learn more about COVID-19, our public health officials are updating their advice for travelers. If someone has recently traveled to any jurisdiction with a confirmed case of COVID-19 and they are unwell or unsure, we are asking that they self-isolate for 14 days. And Mr. Speaker, this is out of an abundance of caution. Our public health system is well prepared to handle cases of the virus in Canada, and we are taking every necessary precaution to prevent the spread of this infection.
You're here. Good job.
For Edmonton Riverbend.
The health minister is telling Canadians to prepare for a possible pandemic by stockpiling food and medication. While no one is trying to raise panic, sudden statements about needing to stockpile food and medicine are raising concerns across the country. Canadians are now wondering if they should be scared to fly, go to work, or go to school. How likely is Canada to face a pandemic at this time? Is the risk still low? Should we be stocking our shelves with supplies?
Good question.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank my friend for the question, Mr. Speaker. Again, as I said, at this time the risk does remain low, but we do, in fact, need to be prepared. This is, as I said, a very rapidly changing situation. And based on what is happening around the world, we are preparing for a global spread of COVID-19. Our focus must focus on the impact within Canada. We already have emergency response plans in place. We also have federal, provincial, and territorial preparedness plans to respond to a pandemic situation. The health and safety of Canadians is at our utmost wish.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver East.
Iran has the most COVID-19 cases in the Middle East, and Canadians are unable to fly out because all commercial flights have been cancelled. The minister said no one in Iran is requesting airlifts to get out of the country, but the facts tell a different story. Within the last 48 hours, the Iranian-Canadian Congress has received over 100 emails from Canadians who are stranded in Iran. Will the minister commit to evacuate Canadians out of Iran, just as they did for Canadians in China and Japan?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we remain very committed to providing consular services to Canadians traveling abroad, obviously including in Iran. We invite Canadians in Iran to take commercial flights while they remain available, Mr. Speaker. Canadians in Iran can access service to our embassy in Ankara, and they can also contact the Italian embassy in Iran, who is our protector. Mr. Speaker, we're providing consular services to everyone in the world who needs the assistance of Canada to come back home.
Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Canada's nurses are warning federal guidelines to protect frontline workers from COVID-19 don't go far enough and may be putting patients at risk. Wow. Safety protocols in Ontario, the U.S., and the European Union all call for the use of disposable respirators, while federal guidelines provide less secure barriers. Nurses say that federal standards presume the virus can't spread through the air, but the science is unsettled. Will this government listen to frontline professionals, revise their guidelines, and ensure the best protection possible for healthcare workers and their patients?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take a moment here to thank the frontline healthcare providers across this country. Mr. Speaker, they have been seized with this from day one, and they have been paying attention, and they've been doing incredible work, and for that, I am very thankful. Mr. Speaker, we are committed to protecting healthcare workers and patients from exposure to COVID-19. The Public Health Agency of Canada released interim guidelines for medical professionals on infection prevention and control for COVID-19, which were developed in partnership with our provincial and our territorial partners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. The honourable member for Acadie Bathurst. Mr. Speaker, fish harvesters in my riding will soon head out for the opening of the snow crab season. We wish them a great season out on the water and the best of prices for their catch.
Ocean and the Canadian Coast Guard update this House on what our government is doing to ensure our harvesters have access to markets while also continuing to protect the North Atlantic right whale. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his question.
Riding of Acadie Bathurst. Mr. Speaker, this morning I was happy to announce updated measures to protect the North Atlantic right whales. We're working in collaborations with industry as well as with our conservation experts. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to be clear that the measures and the progress we're making is only possible because of the support and hard work and cooperation from our fish harvesters. We're ensuring that our fisheries remain sustainable and products are getting to market while protecting for generations this animal that's so important to all of us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Montmagny-Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, in Quebec alone, the economic impact of the railway blockades is estimated at $100 million a day. The CED's budget for Quebec is $300 million a year. The blockades have in 3 days undone what the government hoped to accomplish in an entire year. We've already heard the broken record from the Prime Minister, the Transport and Public Safety Ministers. What does the Minister of Economic Development have to say about this? The Honourable Minister of Transport. The answer, Mr. Speaker, is that we're working day and night to solve this problem as quickly as possible, and that is why we have undertaken dialogue, major dialogue, that will begin today, and at the same time we've clearly indicated that the barricades have to come down and the railway system has to be able to get back to full speed. That's what's happening now. And we're very well aware of the fact that we have to continue along these lines so that our economy can return to normal.
For Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, the ongoing blockades by activists continue to hurt ordinary Canadians. Last week, the Prime Minister said, "I hope we will see positive developments." The Public Safety Minister was hopeful the police would help restore rail shipments. The Liberals repeatedly speak of their hope that the protests will be resolved peacefully. Yet we see protesters starting fires in front of moving trains. Mr. Speaker, hope is a wonderful sentiment. But hope is not a management tool. When will the blockades finally come down and stay down?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I understand the members opposite are hopeless, but let me assure you, Mr. Speaker, that we are working tirelessly both to re-engage.
Order. 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 We were doing so well. I just want to make sure that people understand on both sides that when we throw stuff, it comes back negative. Just try to be getting along and do the best we can. We were doing very well. I was really having hope. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me assure the members opposite that our government remains committed to doing the hard work of going to the table and engaging in the negotiations to resolve the outstanding issues and to get that project built. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we have confidence. We have real confidence in law enforcement across this country to do the job of restoring order and to taking those barricades down.
Honourable Member for North Okanagan-Shuswap.
300,000 chickens. Mr. Speaker, that's how many birds will go hungry on one farm in Salmon Arm in a few days. Wow. This family farm's existence is being threatened by the rail blockades. The farmers have the trucks ready to pick up the grain from the rail cars, but they can't get the rail cars moved. Wow. The livestock and the livelihoods of farmers are at risk. When will the Prime Minister remove these blockades?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. And let me be very clear. The Prime Minister and our government has been crystal clear. These barricades are having an unacceptable impact on Canadians across the country, and they must come down. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we have confidence in law enforcement's ability to do their job and to uphold the law while we engage in the important work of negotiation to reconcile the issues giving rise to these barricades. Thank you, sir.
Number 4, Lethbridge.
Right, before you open your mouth, guys.
I shouldn't be up yet. Canada is in a crisis. Roads, railways, and ports have been shut down. Thousands of Canadians are unable to get to work. Small businesses and farmers cannot get their products to market. Workers are being laid off. A few radical activists and those who break the law, who hate energy progress, are literally being allowed to hold our country hostage. When will the Prime Minister do his job, take leadership, and put an end to this lawless nonsense?
The Honourable Minister of Transportation.
Working very hard to resolve the problem, and I should point out that trains are beginning to move again, not only moving freight across this country, but also moving passengers. So the situation is improving. It's not where we want it to be, and we're going to continue to work very, very hard. And we're extremely happy of the dialogue that is going to start today with the Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs. We are working with a very sensible approach to solve this problem.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, we're celebrating the 4th anniversary of Phoenix, the abyss into which 3/4 of public servants have unfortunately fallen at one time or another. Some haven't been paid. Others have to pay back tens of thousands of dollars, net, not gross. Some have lost their homes. One public servant even took her own life. And that's the cases we know of. 4 years later, there's nothing to celebrate. A demonstration is being held in Montreal. Will the President of the Treasury Board go there?
No, excuse. The Honourable Minister of Infrastructure.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, I express my sympathies to the family of Ms. Deschâtelet. We know the problems, the stress that they cause to public servants and their families, and we're determined to fix the problem. Over the past 2 years, we have reduced the number of transactions that were awaiting processing, and over the same period, the number of transactions with financial consequences have gone down by about 50%. We are continuing in these efforts. The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. I understand that the Minister is trying, but 4,000 RCMP employees are still at risk of getting caught up in Phoenix. They're being told the tests show that all the bugs have been worked out. Mr. Speaker, try telling that to the 100,000 public servants who've had problems over the past year. It just makes no sense to bring new workers into Phoenix this late in the disastrous game. We know the system doesn't work. We know the government's working to replace it. Why not wait for the new system? The Honourable President of the Treasury Board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for that very important question. RCMP employees are fundamental to Canadian security, and their working conditions are crucial under my mandate, and that is why no RCMP will migrate towards Phoenix if there's any risk involved.
Mr. Speaker, Saskatchewan grain farmers are facing serious financial hardships after a difficult harvest season. The Liberals have failed to resolve trade disputes with China. The carbon tax is making everything more expensive. And now illegal blockades are shutting down the rail system. The Liberals must act to help our struggling farmers. The deadline for loan repayment through the Advanced Payments Program is fast approaching. Will the minister agree today to waive the interest on the loans and extend the repayment deadline?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, we understand the pressure our farmers have faced following these tough years. This is why we have improved the advance payment program, and we are in close contact with the APP administrator to monitor the evolving needs of farmers, and I assure you that I will duly evaluate a request when it comes. Thank you.
The honourable member for Perth Wellington.
Well, Mr. Speaker, farmers are facing their challenging now, and the deadline is fast approaching for the advance payment repayments. But farmers are facing challenges. Wet harvest meant that many of the crops stayed in the ground, and those who did get their crops off are now facing delays because of a CN rail strike and now because of illegal blockades. When we asked the Prime Minister this question yesterday, he appeared as though he didn't even know what this program was. So to the Minister of Agriculture, will she extend the deadline for the advance payment program, and will she waive the interest charges, yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
We have made significant modification to the advance payment program last year. I know it's an important program for our farmers, and I can assure you that we are working closely with the APP administrator, and if they come to me and ask for such a request, I will take it very seriously. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Battleford Lloydminster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada's farmers have been hit with blow after blow with this Liberal government. Last fall's early snowfall has left so many crops buried under the snow. Rail strikes and illegal blockades are preventing crops that are in the bin from even getting to the market. The Liberal carbon tax and crumbling trade relationships only compound this crisis. Advanced payment program loans are coming due, but with so many hardships beyond their control, farmers are strapped for cash, Mr. Speaker. Our farmers are in desperate need for more than just empty platitudes. When will the Prime Minister commit to extending the advance payment program deadline and waiving interest on its loans?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I will be very pleased and open to evaluate such a request when it comes to me. And I've already told you many times that I am also very committed to improve the business risk program, the business risk management programs. And should I remind my colleagues that they have cut $400 million to these programs?
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Mr. Speaker, everyone has the right to a safe workplace with fair treatment for all, no matter their gender or their gender identity. Sexual harassment impacts the health and the well-being of those involved, as well as their ability to perform their jobs to the best of their ability. Will the Minister of Justice please share with this House what action our Liberal government is taking to address the issue of workplace sexual harassment?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her question. I agree with her that everyone has the right to feel safe and secure in their workplace. Our government, Mr. Speaker, has invested $50 million over 5 years in funding to address sexual harassment in the workplace. Half of this funding will increase organizations' capacity to provide legal advice to complainants, and half will enable them to provide public legal education and information to workers. Mr. Speaker, we all have important roles to play in creating and maintaining workplaces where everyone can feel safe and respected.
Well, member for Selkirk, Interlake, Eastman.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals' fighter jet fiasco has turned into a complete circus. First, they manufactured a fake capability gap to justify their ridiculous plan to buy a bunch of old, rusted-out Aussie jets. Now they've delayed the competition to buy new jets for another 3 months. And to top it all off, they're only upgrading the fighting capabilities on half of our old jets. How have the Liberals managed to waste $3 billion taxpayer dollars without buying a single, not one, new fighter jet?
The Honourable Minister of Public Services.
Mr. Speaker, our government has been strong and consistent in delivering on its promise to replace the existing fighter jet. Unlike the previous Conservative government, which procured no jets, we are delivering real progress in purchasing 88
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt the Honourable Minister. I'm having a hard time hearing. I'm sure everyone else is as well. I think we quiet it down. The Honourable Minister, please proceed.
At the request of industry, the deadline for preliminary proposals has been extended until June 30th, 2020. This will not affect the timeline for contract award and delivery. Our objective remains clear: getting the best plane for the RCAF at the right price with the most economic benefit for Canadians.
Member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, families in Toronto are struggling to find a home. The first-time homebuyers incentive provided a glimmer of hope before the details were actually known. Mr. Speaker, you can't buy half a home in Toronto under the current incentive, leaving families with little option for home ownership under this plan. When will the Liberals put forward a real plan for families who are just trying to buy their first home in Toronto?
The Honourable Minister.
I'm happy to talk about the National Housing Strategy, which reintroduced federal leadership in housing after 10 years of inaction by that party when they were in government. We have ensured that we've introduced programs to build more affordable rental stock into the market, more social housing. We've signed bilateral agreements with provinces and territories. And yes, we've introduced the first-time home buy incentive so that the dream of home ownership can be within reach for middle-class Canadians.
So much good work.
Mr. Speaker, forestry contributes over $20 billion to the Canadian economy and employs over 200,000 people. The industry also plays a role in protecting our environment, as forest products are an effective way of storing captured carbon. This is why many Canadians are concerned with the Liberal plan to restrict 25% of Canada's land from development. Reducing the amount of forest land available for harvest would negatively impact our economic and environmental prosperity. So can the Minister of Natural Resources confirm whether or not this plan will impact areas that are currently accessible for harvest? Yes or no?
Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We were incredibly proud of the work that was done between 2015 and 2019 to meet our protected areas targets of 10% marine and 17% terrestrial protection. That is critically important in terms of protecting biodiversity in this country, and we worked with all sectors, including the forestry sector and the provinces and territories in doing so. We have now established a 25 by 25 target. We will continue to work actively with the provinces and territories, with all sectors, very much including the forestry sector, to ensure that we are protecting spaces for years to come, but doing so in a manner that is economically sensitive.
The Honourable Member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, all Canadians know it's often hard to strike a good balance between our personal and professional lives. In my riding of Vimy, families work hard to balance the demands of work, family, mental health, emotional and physical fitness. Canadians want this government to deal with this important issue. Can the Employment Minister tell us what steps this government is taking to address work-life balance? The Honourable Minister of Employment. Mr. Speaker, my colleague's question is very important. Our government understands the importance of work-life balance.
For Canadian workers, Mr. Speaker, we've expanded leave provisions for families. We've created new leaves. We've enshrined flexible work arrangements, restored fair and balanced labour relations, and moving forward, we will modernize health and safety standards, implementing mental health protections. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Skeena Bulkley Valley.
Mr. Speaker, a woman I met in Fort St. James worked for 25 years at the sawmill. She told me that when she was laid off, she lost all her benefits. Now she can't afford the drugs she needs for her arthritis. Like the 1 in 5 Canadians who can't afford their medication, she's been left behind by this government. The NDP is ready with a plan to make universal, public, single-payer pharmacare a reality and save Canadians and our health system billions. Will the minister support our plan for pharmacare?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Honourable Member for the question. We are open to collaborating with the members of the opposition we are open to collaboration with members of the NDP. We will look very seriously at this bill. We will work towards coming up with things that we can work together on to move forward for national pharmacare for all Canadians.
The honourable member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, 1 in 5 Canadians suffer from a mental health problem or illness in any given year. Mental illness-related costs in Canada are over $50 billion annually.
The social costs are very high. People with serious mental illness are more likely to live in poverty.
France has been tasked with setting national standards for the access to mental health services. Can the minister confirm that the upcoming budget will include funding for a national framework that will allow Canadians to access a variety of mental health professionals, including counsellors, and will empower provinces and territories to work together for action on this important issue?
Yes.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the health of Canadians is a top priority for constituents in every riding from coast to coast to coast. Of course, during the recent federal election campaign, we committed to put billions of dollars to support not just mental health, but to improve access to primary care, to implement pharmacare, and to improve in-home care for our seniors. I look forward to continuing my conversations with colleagues on both sides of this aisle to implement a plan through our fiscal framework that's going to improve the health of all Canadians. Thank you.
And that's all the questions for today. There's a point of order, but before we go to the point of order, I just want to say that today was not a great day, but it was a much better day, and I want to thank the members who did respect others while they were speaking. The honourable member for Edmonton West has a point of order.
Might be setting your standards too low, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, earlier we heard the member from Repentier wrongly label Alberta oil as dirtiest in the world when we know it's actually Nigeria. I'd like to table, please, a report from the Library of Parliament showing Quebec imported 3 million barrels of the world's dirtiest oil from
Does the honourable member have unanimous consent to the... I'm afraid we don't have unanimous consent. We have a point of order coming from the honourable member for Kings Hants.
Mr. Speaker, and again, I rise on a point of order today. Now, on Tuesday, we had a great discussion on Tech Frontier and the oil sands industry writ large in this country. And I'd like to thank the member from Lakeland for bringing that emergency debate so all members in this House could be able to bring forward their thoughts, and I appreciate having that chance. During the debate, I had an intervention from the member from Regina.